Chair is here. So all board members are here for this Monday, August 17th, 2020 school board meeting. The first line of business is to share the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everyone. I have asked Jamie Fair to share our vision this evening.
Yep, the mission of the Red Wing Public Schools is to educate and inspire all students as they realize their full potential and become respectful, responsible, and productive citizens.
Thank you, Janie. The agenda is presented in the board book. Does anybody have any changes or additions to make this evening?
Meeting that is being right now. So if we could pause and wait until that is fixed.
Sounds good. Thank you. Lisa, did you hear that?
I'm sorry, no, Ken, I stepped away to go work on the stream. What was it?
There's no sound coming through the stream.
Okay,
Let me know when you're ready to proceed.
Okay, I'm just testing the sound.
there is sound now, ma'am.
Hello, Jess, you can hear me now? Test 1, 2.
I'm testing it with other community members. Good, Mikey? Okay. Good.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks for letting us know. All right, so we were talking about the agenda that's presented in the board book. Does anybody have any changes to be made to the agenda this evening?
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Janie made the motion. Do I have a second? Can I have a second?
Sure, I'll second that. Heidi Jones.
Thank you. Made by Janie, seconded by Heidi. Anything else? Any discussion?
No.
All right, we'll take a roll call vote. We'll start with you, Ms.
Second
Fair.
by Mike.
Aye.
I seconded Mike.
Okay. Janie says aye to the agenda. Heidi Jones,
Aye.
Ms. Tower,
Aye.
Mr. Bryant,
Aye.
Mr. Christensen, we're voting on the agenda, Mike?
Aye.
Mr. Derricks?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. So the agenda passes 7-0.
Apparently my microphone isn't working. Oh,
I feel like it's working, Mike. It's just really delayed.
oh yeah, great.
We'll do the best we can. You have my cell phone number. And you can always type in chat.
Close some things.
Okay, we'll keep going. In our board book, we always include the educational plan. And so we want to always be aware of what our focus is in educating and what our mission and our core values are. So you'll always find that in our board book. Next up is recognitions and upcoming events. Does anybody have anything they would like to share?
I would like to make an announcement. Received a word today from the Jones Family Foundation that has committed up to $100,000 to the district to be used on some technology to help us implement distance learning. So the $100,000 will help pay for some computers at the high school that we need for the effort. And then the remaining amount will be dedicated towards improving teacher practices in terms of implementing distance learning. So it's teacher training, and related items for that. So, obviously I was, pleasantly surprised today when I received that message from the Jones Family Foundation. And Wingers Foundation, or the Wings Foundation, donated a sizable amount a couple of weeks ago. Jones Family Foundation, obviously has another significant donation. I've also been talking with a third group in town that's really focused on equity work, and I'm confident that we'll be able to submit a grant for strong consideration to help with some of our equity planning throughout the community. So in addition to Mikey's and Mandy's work that'll be presented here shortly, once again, we're so grateful for our community partners in helping us through this challenging time. So thank you, Jones Family Foundation, for that generous donation.
It's quite breathtaking. Wow, thank you so much.
Very nice, very generous, and the Jones family is a wonderful family from the community, and we thank them dearly, the whole foundation group. So thank you.
Other upcoming recognitions and events?
Other things at the same time.
Maybe, Madam Chair, if I can just quick put a little normalcy into our school year, but it was really nice to drop kids off at sporting activities today and just feel like life was a little bit back to normal and see some smiles on their faces and time with their friends and tiredness after a good workout. So I just wanted to have that positiveness of that we are having some normality and kids are able to get out there and exercise a little bit. So it was a good day.
Well said. It is a good day. Tennis, what is it? Tennis, cross country, soccer, those are all starting outside, and then the swim and dive will be starting indoors with just virtual meets, but it is great. And I did look through the Minnesota State High School League, all of their protocols and what their expectations are for spectators and team events, as well as the actual competition. And they've really thought through how this is going to work for the fall. And Is like to thank our coaches as well, because we are, we're all learning as we go. I don't think we've ever coached under a pandemic before. So it is a little bit trickier, but I think the students are so eager to participate that mask wearing now is a pretty commonplace activity. And my kids they don't leave without their masks. So I think that'll be incorporated well into our sports. Other upcoming events or activities, things that we want to share? I just have a couple that I wanted to highlight. One is every Sunday night, the district puts out an electronic newsletter, the weekly e-news. And as I was reading through this week, there was just so much information. There were links to what our plan is for the fall. There's links to job openings. There's links to sporting events and other pertinent news. So I just would really encourage you, if you haven't signed up for the weekly e-news, you don't have to have a child in the district to sign up for that, but it's a really good way to keep tabs on what's happening in our district. The first day of school is coming up Tuesday, September 8th. Looks like the supply list for K through 6 is on the website under news and announcements. Supply list for 7 through 12 is upcoming. I think binders and notebooks and paper and those sorts of things are also needed for the high school. All right, and then it looks like Heidi has something she'd like to share.
Thank you. We have 11 people who have filed for 4 seats on this school board, so it'll be an exciting election season. League of Women Voters, Red Wing, is hosting the school board candidate forum on September 17th. And that'll be down in Central Park at the band shell. A little bit different format this year and outside for the distancing and so keeping that 6 feet and everything. So it'll be a short, typical way we do forums, which was to ask the candidates all the same question and they have given a response. And then after they do their time on the stage, there will be tables out in the park itself where you can go have a one-on-one conversation across a table distance to have a one-on-one interaction with a candidate that you want to have a dialogue with. So I just want you to let you know that. That night we're featuring the House and the Senate rate also. So I'm sure it'll be a good turnout, and those events start at 5 o'clock. So bring your own lawn chair, blanket, and that's that night features our candidates for school board. Thanks.
Thank you for mentioning that, Heidi. Actually, the date is up in the air. I just got an email this afternoon that they're looking at one of 3 possible dates. So I'm sure that will be published as soon as it is zeroed in. So it will be in September. It will be 5 to 7, but the date exactly isn't narrowed down yet. So be watching for that. Very exciting time. And then Mike.
Can you hear me? No? Yes? Okay. Our food service director, Brent Lexfold, was appointed the public policy chair for the Minnesota School Nutrition Association. Brent has been with us for several years, and he's done just a fantastic job. He's enthusiastic and caring, and I would just want to make sure that everybody appreciates what he does. The association that he's with is a nonprofit association of 3,000 members who work to ensure that all children have access to healthy meals and nutrition education in the state of Minnesota. Thanks, Brent. Good job.
He does amazing work. Well said, Mike. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. The only other thing I wanted to highlight is that on that e-news, there's a link to Ready, Set, Red Wing. It's a booklet that would be fun for anybody to complete. There's all sorts of, it's a booklet on how to get involved with all of the community of Red Wing, what we have to offer here. So there's a link on the e-news, which I alluded to earlier, or it's available at red-wing.org. And there's different activities, there's coloring, there's naturalist activities in there. And I was looking through it today, and it would be really fun for families to do together. You can just get it electronically. You can print it out if you'd like. But it looks like a really fun booklet. So I just wanted to let you know about that. It's a cooperative of many different nonprofits here in Red Wing. So it's a really fun booklet. All right, anything else? All righty, then I will go on to public comment. Superintendent Anderson, have you received any public comment?
I do not believe so.
Okay, I have one letter that was submitted to me, and she has asked me to read it on her behalf. It is from Rose Gertis at 470 Friedel Crescent in Red Wing. She has 2 kids in the district. And she is directly speaking to the mask policy that we'll be voting on later this evening. She says, number 1, I have 2 concerns I hope you will consider and attend to. Number 1, face shield options for students. I feel that students should be allowed the option of wearing a face shield as a face covering. I do not feel that this option should only be for students on an IEP or 504, or that it should be a complicated process for a student to have permission to wear a face shield that meets health requirements. I contacted Superintendent Anderson about my concerns, and he notified me of the document being considered tonight. According to the proposed document for the face covering, Section 3B explains what a face shield is, but does not say that it is allowable for students. Later in the document, Section 5, letter D, it states, Individuals who cannot tolerate a face covering due to a medical condition or disability-related condition may be permitted to utilize alternative options such as a face shield or other reasonable accommodation. The superintendent or designee shall have discretion to determine whether an employee, parent, or community member qualifies for a reasonable accommodation and the accommodation to be provided. For a student with a medical condition or disability, the student's education team, their IEP team or 504 team health plan, will determine whether the student qualifies for reasonable accommodation and the accommodation to be provided. As a condition to granting a reasonable accommodation, the school district may require an individual to provide a physician's note or other relevant information, or with respect to the condition or circumstance. Requests for reasonable accommodations from the face covering requirement shall be assessed on a case-by-case basis in accordance with applicable federal and state law. That paragraph is in the proposed policy this evening. So she says, this sounds like an asthmatic student could get permission from the district after a doctor note is received to wear a face shield. But what about other students? The Minnesota State Planning Guide for the school's 2021 year gives allowances for clear face shields among students in kindergarten through grade 8 when wearing a face covering is problematic. I think it is going to be problematic for many students to breathe in and out through 2 layers of cloth for so many hours during the day. She also says, number 2, clear and consistent communication about student learning options is important for parents and students. In the E12 Red Wing Learning Plan draft on page 14, it states that a student choosing online learning with the district has to commit for 1 semester. It had previously been stated that choosing online learning with the district would place a student into a classroom and he or she could be in school or home. Additionally, we have used the term distance learning, and now the reference to online learning is confusing. Does this apply only to Edgenuity? On page 22 in the board packet for return to school plan, it shows the option for distance learning with the district, and it says distance learning with your assigned class virtually. Although some documents are in draft form, clarification is necessary for parents and students who are discerning distance learning. I believe it is preferable for the district to allow students who are learning through distance learning to have the option to be in the classroom or learn at home. Thank you. So we appreciate public comment, and I thank you for your letter so much, Rose.
Yeah, and both of those issues will be discussed or can be discussed during the meeting today. So I think it'd probably be prudent to wait until, each item is discussed at that time.
Perfect. And I'll just remind the public that we always welcome your input and your comments, and to get those to either myself or Superintendent Anderson by noon of the date that we're meeting, you can submit those via email, and those are always listed on our school board website. I can be reached at pjroe@rwps.org. And Superintendent Anderson can be reached at KLAnderson@rwps.org. You are always welcome to read your own letters, and so we would encourage that if at all possible, but I'm always happy to read them in your place if that is your preference. All right, next on the agenda is the Return to School Teaching and Learning Plan, and I believe that Jess Whitcomb will be presenting tonight.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. And I was just adding in so a little more explanation for Rose's comment, and we will get to that. But I do want to, if I can present to you all, I do want to get to our guests here so that they can go, and then I can let you guys in on the rest. But we have some guests here tonight because of some exciting opportunities that our community has been helping us with. So If you look here, I added some highlights. You have the original presentation, but I added kind of how we're going to go through the presentation tonight. So I would like Mandy Arden and Mikey Bechtold to first present our community program that they are taking on, and the community has really stepped up, and I'm very excited. And then the specials collaboration, we will go through the district wellness committee, and then as requested, the expectations and accountability, and also the staff development. So I will run through that. I'm going to stop presenting and let Mikey kind of show what we have for the community for the community program.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mandy Arden. I'm the director of Red Wing Youth Outreach. Mikey Bechtold and I have put together this program, and we are really excited to share it with you tonight. I'm just going to give a little history before he goes into what the program idea is. So last Tuesday, we were invited to a meeting with the school. There was probably 30 or 40 people there, and we're trying to brainstorm on how we can assist the school during this pandemic, during distance learning and hybrid models, and how can we support students together as a community. Red Wing Youth Outreach has been working with students in this community for 28 years now, and so we felt it was a perfect time to step up and see what we can do as a local nonprofit. In the last about 5 years, we've been partnering closely with First Covenant Church and Mikey Bechtold to focus on programs for middle school youth and high school youth. And so we have a little bit of experience in the community working with at-risk kids. So after the meeting, we pulled together a group of people to kind of brainstorm what is needed in Red Wing to support the school in supporting students. So while this program is going to partner with the schools, it is not a school program. And so feedback would actually come to myself or Mike Bechtold, and I will give my email address at the end of this presentation. We are going to welcome more partners and more people to the table to continue this discussion. And we meet again in just a couple days. But at the end of his presentation, if you're still interested in learning more, I will give my contact info on our next meeting dates. And I'll let Mikey take it from here.
Yeah, thank you everyone for letting me join you. For those who don't know me, my name is Mike Bechtold. Most people know me as Mikey. I'm one of the pastors at First Covenant Church just next door to Twin Bluff. I have a second grader in Red Wing Public Schools this year. And for those who maybe know, I am the creator of Fusion, which was an after-school program that had taken place this last year. Sadly, has to be shut down for this year due to the circumstances that are taking place. But I'm excited for this potential opportunity to kind of take its place. So just wanted to share with you several quick slides to explain what is our big idea. And it all is centered around this key question: how can we help families and support the school district during this just very difficult season of life? When COVID actually hit, this has kind of been the question that's been on the back of my head for the last several weeks. And so it's great to finally have some community gathering around this question. And so in the middle of this, we also have these things that we have been considering keeping in front of us: the fact that school starts in 3 weeks. And so we got to figure that out. Kind of some of the fact that 5 through 12 is the ones that's going to have 3 days of distance each week. Paying attention to the time frame, even just this is a morphing presentation. Literally, we made adjustments to it today after having conversations with Kids Junction, because we didn't really know what was going on. And so like collaborating with other people has been important, and then also paying attention to the school's reopening plans and how we would implement those things as well into this program. So these are all things that we are considering as we continue to figure out what it is we would do and what it would look like. And so it really came down to this? What are we doing? Our purpose is to provide an academic assistance for families during their child's distance education days to focus on completing their academic requirements with supervision from a caring adult. So that's kind of our big picture of what we're hoping to accomplish. Again, like Mandy said, this is not affiliated with the school. This is something we, Youth Outreach and First Covenant, is owning to basically support families and support the school during this pandemic. And so we also want to make sure that we're very clear that this is not a replacement to what the school is doing. So students are still expected to be enrolled. They're expected to participate when they're supposed to be in person for their cohort. And so we are not offering any teaching or any curriculum through this program. We are simply providing supervision and assistance with what is being provided through the schools. So in a big picture nutshell, this is what the program would look like. So we're calling it C-Deep, Community Distance Ed Assistance Program. It's not beautiful, but it works. So C-Deep would be open on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So essentially providing 1 day for each cohort during their distance ed days from 8:45 to 4 p.m. And so what would happen is students would simply bring their Chromebooks, bring their devices they need, their books, to the locations we have, and they would do their assignments on site. Volunteers would be present then to supervise students as well as assist them with homework that happens throughout the day that they may need help with. Typically, they'd be asking mom and dad when they're at home to do that, but we would have volunteers being present to do that. So our church is actually currently pending as the moment. I have a meeting tomorrow to begin to get approvals for some of these things. But the beautiful thing about this is we can replicate this model in pretty much any building around town that would have the appropriate space to do so. And so our hope is actually to get several partners that we can offer within walking distance all over town, this kind of a model happening for kids in need. And we actually do have a few conversations with people currently pending as well, looking into the option. So our target audience, we, after several conversations even today, we decided to target our audience towards students in grades 7 through 12, so more specifically the high school, and those kids who would be home alone all day, maybe because of the kids of single parents or kids where both parents need to work in order to pay the bills. It's also paying attention to those kids who are going to be struggling academically due to maybe they struggle with online learning, or they're just really struggling academically through the school program, whatever it is, or even those students that we would identify as at risk in our community due to whatever is going on in their life. That's our target audience. We originally were going to be open to 5 and 6 as well, but after talking with Kids Junction, who seems to be available for a lengthier time, more available than what we could do, and open 5 days a week, we figured that we would let them own those grades. And so we'd focus particularly on 7 through 12. And so because we have a smaller subset even, we decided today that we would also just simply open this up to the community. So essentially any kid who is a part of the hybrid, the distance, or Edgenuity programs, you're bringing your items to this location to simply have that adult assistance there. And so all of our participants that apply will be screened through Youth Outreach through this application process, and students will be accepted into this program based on the family's needs as well as our program's capacity. And so our capacity is simply based on our host sites and how many we have, as well as our volunteer capacity. And so our volunteer ratio we have set, we need about approximately 1 adult for every 10 kids, with no less than 2 adults per host site. So essentially, we're going to need several adults a week in order to make that happen. And if we add more sites, that just continues to multiply the number of volunteers. And so we're basically, one of the things we would love to ask from this opportunity is say, we just need help. We're creating the system to help provide help for our families, but we could use some volunteers from our community to step up. And if we can do that, we can provide opportunities throughout the entire city for students to get something like this in their neighborhood. And so really this is why we're doing it. Who's better off? Well, it's because this is going to provide up to 1 full school day of supervision for those students who might be home all day by themselves. It's going to provide a safe space for students to complete and receive assistance with homework during the day. It's an intentional program that we plan to follow the school's daily schedule, which I think was also an important part. And then we're getting kids are interacting with a caring adult, which we constantly talk about improving social and emotional learning as well as mental health. And then we are also currently working with the school district to make sure that we're also providing school lunches at these gatherings as well for those who need them. And so this is our program, See Deep, that we're kind of dreaming up. And again, it's morphing. We're still figuring it out. We have another meeting on Wednesday to discern this. But with that, I'll turn it over to Mandy.
Thanks, everyone. So Wednesday, oh, here's the slide. If you're interested, you want to partner, you have a great idea, you want to learn more about this, our next conversation is going to be this Wednesday at 10 a.m. and you can email me for an invite, a link and code to that, mandylrden@gmail.com. We try to stick to about an hour-long meeting, but it can go over a little bit depending on how many people join. Any questions from the school board or clarification needed?
Pam, is it okay if I go ahead? Oh, go ahead, Pam.
Go ahead, Janie, and then I have a question after you.
Mandy or Mikey, tell me a little bit about, you know, of course, I just think of how I can help with this because you know how I love all these community partnerships. So great job, guys. I'm so excited. But, you know, on the idea of like, you know, kids having to apply to be in it, I mean, I'm sure that's all about having the right staff and volunteer numbers. But if there's the ability, are we able to get more kids in it, again, with the space and the volunteers in check? Like, do you envision, you know, because it would be great to have as many kids being able to work collaboratively in a big space distance if we can, but are you seeing that there's more possibilities if we get enough people, enough adults?
Yeah, great question, Janie. So we envision multiple locations across the city that are in walking distance for kids to get to because we will not be providing transportation. There might be some other partners willing to work on transportation, but the more locations, the more volunteers, the more kids that can go and be helped. And so this is 100% dependent on how big the community wants to make it. We're just providing the initial structure with all of the forms, all of the training, so it can be replicated in many places across the community. Thank you for that question.
Fantastic job, guys. Just so exciting.
Thank you. And just a reminder, we're literally on day 7 of planning. So I am so proud of the work Mike has done to get us here and our community partners. It's just pulling together so quickly. So I think in another week, we'll have probably more of those logistics figured out. We also have a fantastic safety plan that we did not get into, but that will be available when it looks readable and pretty. So, all right. Any other questions?
I have one, Mandy. So for those of you who don't know, I work with Mandy on youth outreach, and they run just a top-notch program there. And so none of this surprises me that she came forward with Mikey and put this together because she's got a great wealth of experience behind her. So well done, Mandy. You know, you talked about your safety plan, and I'm sure that there's a lot of logistics that still need to be had. But one of the things that I worry a lot about is if we're having kids walking to your location, you know, what kind of release of liability are we going to have? And I don't need an answer now, but I'm sure that you've talked about it. But that's one thing that kind of goes up in my mind as we talk about this. So I would just want to make sure that as kids are coming and going from all of these different facilities, that they're safe, or that at least that there's a release of liability on that.
Absolutely. Yep. It'll be, it's a voluntary program through Youth Outreach. So we will make sure all of those pieces are in place, not just to protect us, but to make sure the families really understand what the program is, what the expectations are, and how their child is getting to and from, especially because we're working with the 7th through 12th graders. Sometimes those children have a lot more freedom to move about during their day. So we just really want to make it clear so the families know exactly where their child will be, when they could be there, and that it is voluntary. So if they want to get up and leave, no one is going to call them and say, hey, your child got up and left, because we are not the school. This is an independent voluntary program for them to participate in. So thanks for that reminder, Pam.
Thank you to Mandy and Mikey. And part of the reason I wanted, there were a couple of reasons why I wanted them to come and present today. Part of it is to also get that call for help. I know we have a lot of community members and parents on the call, and hopefully that they can see that if they want to be part of it. And then the other is to highlight just the collaboration that is happening, and the fact that Red Wing community in a lot of different capacities are stepping up, as we can see with the funding, as we can see with people reaching out to help, and really just highlighting our community coming together to make this happen for kids, because otherwise we couldn't do it. We all had those worries about those 5th and 6th graders, and we see Kids Junction meeting that need for us. Now we see Youth Outreach and First Covenant Church meeting the needs of our worries for the 7 through 12 of the people that won't have the support to wrap around. So I think that they're filling in the gaps that we couldn't during a global pandemic. So I think that that's part of the things that we want to just highlight here today. Thank you. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to move on to the specials collaboration. And what I mean by that is our K-6 specialists. And when we are talking about that, we're talking about our PE, our STEM, our art, and our music. And I want to just show a couple of things that have happened. So we had, my dates are running together, so forgive me if I don't get the exact date, but last week, sometime we pulled, maybe even a week and a half ago, we pulled some specialist teachers and some core teachers together to come up with some solutions on how do we meet the needs of kids when we're pushing our specials into the classroom. And so I want to just bring up, I'm going to present my screen here, and I want to bring up a couple of things that were created because of this. And we have to think, is this working? Can you guys give me a thumbs up? Good to go? Okay. This is our K-6 specials website that Amanda Peterson, one of our art specialists, teaches at Twin Bluff Middle School, now our Twin Bluff Elementary. She has created this K-6 specials site. And what we're working on is getting a lead, actually from the community and some of our teachers leading this charge. So I'm going to just give you one example of what we're talking about here, because this is a resource for teachers. So as they teach in the classroom and utilize our site, this will be their curriculum and their resources. Our community, again, is stepping up to say, like, we want to help create that before the school year starts, so that this is a site that teachers would be able to utilize. So if we go to the art website here, which is be on Mondays, art will be on Mondays. The teacher goes to their site. So let's just go to 5th grade here. And up pops all of the lessons that they will need in order to teach this curriculum. This is something that's going to be ongoing, as we won't start specials until September 28th. Part of it is to make sure that we have the process and procedures down with students and families before we start this. And also we need some time to build the curriculum in order for it to get off to a running start. So that's one of the things that we are doing for the K-6 specials. The other, I'm going to show the other thing that we want to talk about is this virtual, let's see here, this virtual calming space This is the district-wide. I know there have been a lot of conversations and a lot of concerns about our staff well-being and what are we doing to make sure that we're surrounding our staff, because we talk a lot about families, we talk a lot about students, which is our job, but we have to make sure that our staff is also ready to go in order to take on this responsibility that was given to us. So one of the things that happened was Tara Nelson and Lisa Hansen and Brent Lexfold started a district-wide wellness committee in February, and then COVID hit, and so they said, hey, we need to re-up this and really have a district-wide plan to make wellness at the center of what we're doing for our staff. And so what happened is we met and came up with building leads. We all met as building leads. One of the things that was created was this virtual calming space. And if you kind of click into it, there are resources to go through that, again, Amanda Peterson has created for us in order to use not only for our students, but also for our staff. So that will be utilized on our Wednesdays or Wellness Wednesdays for our students to remind them to breathe, because this is going to be an anxiety-inducing time for some of them and for some of our staff. So these are some of the strategies that we're utilizing in order to be able to do that. There are other strategies that the team has come up with, but I just wanted to kind of highlight their work and also honor it, because it is an important part of what we do. The last thing that I wanted to highlight before I get into a couple more details that you all have been asking for, I have our tech website. People have been concerned about how will staff be given some professional development, and how will also our families be given that. So this has been created on how can we help you? This is our tech website. So there's a lot of different things that we need that parents and students and also staff can utilize in order to go in and get resources. I'll talk about the staff development on the technology side near the end of the presentation also. So these are just a couple of highlights about, I think we get caught up sometimes a little bit in the weeds, and I wanted to make sure that you guys saw and were able also to celebrate some of the work that this awesome staff has been doing, and also just to get excited about. This is not something we wanted to have happen, but there are so many great things that have come out of this, and I wanted to be able to bring it to you, because sometimes those things don't get all the way up to you guys. So I wanted to make sure that we highlighted some of those for you. So any questions about those before I move on to the rest of my presentation here?
Not a question, Jess, but just share our my amazement with Amanda Peterson and those. They're really nicely designed and they're so eye-catching, and I just felt calmer when I I saw that first page. So thank you for sharing that, and please share our great thanks to Amanda as well, because that's a job well done. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anybody else? All right. So we're going to go back to the plan here and give a little bit more detail. I have been communicating with parents that have asked about our distance learning or our online learning options, and I think we should talk a little bit about why there is that inconsistency that Rose is talking about with the language. So I think we've been utilizing distance learning interchangeably with online learning. So some of that was clarified by the state, that distance learning is when you make that choice as a full district or a full school, and it's made by the administration, like we are going distance learning. The online options are the ones that parents choose. So those are that's the discrepancy, and people have been using those interchangeably. So I think Karsten wanted to make that distinction, and that's why those two documents don't necessarily look the same. So I want to just go back to our guiding principles always. Health and safety, when we're making these changes and the drafts aren't matching, it's because we're constantly building on sand here with the global pandemic, and also making sure that health and safety is at the center of what we're talking about. That's why we're in this situation that we are. And then equity is always there in our mind as well. There can be a great solution, but we have to always say, does that work for everybody, or does that work for a small percentage of our population? Then we want to make sure, like our job always is essential student learning. Then student, family, and staff support, clear and consistent communication, and then, as always, that underlying with our situation that we're in is the flexibility, the patience, and the empathy for what we all are going through together here. So we all know of the instructional models that we have. I'm leaving it on this slide here because this is the one that we're starting the school year in, and we are prepared to do so. I know with that we are working tirelessly to make sure that we're meeting the needs of different, I'm going to say curveballs that are thrown at the administrative team and then the teachers, and there are just different things that we're going to have to work through as a staff and that people are stepping up to do. So there are issues with every model, as we know, and so we're picking the best option that we can with our situation, our capacity, and then our resources. Jim, do you have a question? I might be on mute. There you go.
Going back to the slide there where you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday, what can our students and parents expect to happen on Wednesday when all kids are on distant learning?
Sure. Can we get to that?
Oh, sure. At some point. I saw the slide. I didn't want to forget it. So if you want to do it later, I have no problem with that. Thank you.
Is it this part here though? Not just for distance, for you're saying for the hybrid learning?
Yeah, but on Wednesday, nobody's in school except K through 5, or K through 4, excuse me.
Right. So I guess, yeah, we could address that now. So they are still they are still learning, but they are just they are online learning. I'm going back and forth with those words, so please correct me. So that they would be online at that point. And what we would be doing during that time is going to be how the teachers are going to be creative about that time. We have a bunch of different options that we have presented to teachers to say, like, here are some options, but as they get together with their PLC, some of those options work better for science classes. Some of those options work better for an English class. Project-based learning might work better for an English and a social studies class, which we will give professional development for that. Sometimes a flipped classroom works better for a math classroom. We will meet the needs of the students and the teachers in order to say what works best for your subject. We got to tap into our experts and say what works best. We'll have professional development available and ready for all, but those will be some teachers came in and also talked about a strategy of utilizing for a lab classroom. We would utilize a 4-day rotation so that the kids that are getting instruction in person on the Monday wouldn't always be the class that got instruction in the classroom. So that the 4-day rotation means that you restart a unit or a rotation starting on Friday, so that those kids would get first time instruction in the classroom as well. So we're getting really creative about how to be equitable about meeting kids' needs and also about meeting the needs of teachers in order to make sure that what works best for your classroom, they know best. Does that help or no?
Well, it actually confuses me even more. So, but no, I know what you know what you're saying, but I may be a parent. I'm just coming from a parent who was a parent but no longer have a child in there. On Wednesday, are you talking there's only going to be 4 days of learning for our students on a 5-day week, or on Wednesday is it going to be how many hours are the teachers available, or the kids are expected to sign up and go online and learn. So I know that as parents ask me, well, just what's going to happen on these days, I'd like to have some information to share with them.
Sure. They will follow their daily schedule no matter where they are. So
Okay.
they will be able to have the access to our teachers no matter where they are, if they are home or in the classroom. So when they are home or possibly with this community program or possibly at another family's home, they will follow their schedule. So I can pull up that schedule. I believe it was in your packet of a daily schedule. Is that in your packet, or I can pull one up?
There's quite a bit of information in here. So, okay, I just want to make sure that we're not only doing a 4-day out of 5 for the students and the parents have an idea that it's 5 days a week. The hybrid is offering the 5 days of learning.
Yes.
Not just an hour or so every day, but an actual time frame where they would be similar to being actually in person learning. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So a good definition to it is like they will have new learning every day, just like they would be in school. And I can pull up a daily schedule to kind of tell you to show what I'm talking about.
That's fine. I just want to make my point. So I'll let you continue. Thank you.
Say, can I jump in, Jess, just for a quick second? I think Jim's point or question is well taken. There are some schools who are converting like a Wednesday to a professional development day or a non-learning day. But the administrative team decided that we wanted new learning on every single day of the week. And so even though the kids are going to be at home, they need to follow, the schedule on Wednesday, just like they would do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And so then each teacher will be responsible for working with kids on new learning.
Okay. Jim, I can bring up a schedule too in a little bit after I kind of get through a little bit more if that helps. And I know that you're asking questions that you're maybe getting, so we want to be really clear if that isn't coming through. All right. So kind of to Jim's point here on what does hybrid, in-person, and daily schedule look like. So at Colville, they will return on a usual schedule, and then with social distancing and CDC recommendations, they are making changes to make sure that it is safe for students, but they will be able to run their programming with hybrid and in-person. The K-6 buildings will follow their daily schedule in every model. So if you have a morning meeting at 9 a.m. from 9 to 9:30, every single day you have a morning meeting for the little kids. You would have a literacy block, you would still have recess or brain breaks. There would be a daily schedule from 9 until that 2. So it would be much different than what we, I think, refer to now as the crisis learning. It would be much different to the crisis learning of the spring. We're now talking about online learning and distance learning because we were able to prepare for it and also make sure that kids had access to devices and also access to technology for us to be able to expect that. I also feel a lot better about expecting that with our support of Kids Junction and our community support to make sure that everybody has equitable access to education. So curriculum resources will also be able to be utilized. We had to do a lot online during the spring. Now we will be able to get those resources for Wonders curriculum, books in kids' hands, manipulatives, able to write on their notebooks and be able to do work maybe with a teacher there, but they're able to do their work over here and check in with the teacher instead of do everything online. I think that is something that parents have been asking, and we will definitely be able to meet that need. With Red Wing High School, teacher, staff, and students will follow their daily schedule in every scenario as well with those 4 blocks, which will be helpful for teachers and for students to kind of lighten that load of, instead of those 8 classes, they will be at 4 and teachers will be at 3. So students will follow their schedule during the day. We have, again, kind of those models of teaching that we need to present to teachers, and then also have them pick what is their teaching style, just as they do in a normal classroom. And then new learning per course must be recorded for our distance learners. So that means, like, if there is new learning or a lesson presented, we must be able to get that for kids that maybe need to quarantine, or something for our hybrid learners. PowerView also has a schedule of similar hybrid schedule, where they, in the morning, on Mondays and Tuesdays, they're in person, and then in the afternoon, that group goes virtual. Then Wednesday, they do a virtual individualized learning similar to us. And then group B would come Thursday and Friday mornings. So really the only difference between that 7-12 model is that the afternoons are virtual for them, based on their curriculum and the way that their classes are set up. So this is the intervention conversation about our interventions and our specials. So we are going to have a co-teaching model for our specialists, and so they are responsible for the learning in their classroom, which is why we are developing those resources for everyone to be able to teach the art, STEM, PE, and music, because we know that that is important for our students. That is a well-rounded education. We care about that. We just had to get a little bit more creative about how to get specials to kids, so that we didn't have our specialists going to every single classroom and protecting them as well as our students. So that's why we needed to activate some of our community members to utilize them as resources. We've had many people reach out to us. They're going to get creative about getting those resources to kids. So here's where we need to make that distinction for families. And then also with I'm glad that you have that packet with you about kind of the distinction between Edgenuity and distance learning. Or online learning, excuse me. So the Edgenuity is full online. You are still enrolled with Red Wing Public Schools, but you are committed to online learning for that semester. So the change that we will have, so I'm going to go back to Edgenuity for a second. So I added this in. Here, hold on a second. This was approved here. So let me bring it up, present. Okay, so here I think is a good breakdown in what people have been asking for. So there is, we are asking parents, it is today the 17th, we are going to ask parents based on our planning and our capacity to commit to, if they are going to online learning, to commit to a semester of online learning, or if it is in the elementary school, a semester, and at the high school, it would be a quarter. So if you are wanting to go distance learning, and this is a change, based on, we did say at first we were hoping kids would have the choice to kind of go back and forth when we looked at staffing and how that would affect how our buildings ran. That's not something safety-wise and capacity that we would be able to do. The shift that we will be making is to have an online teacher per grade level. So we have the numbers now that makes sense, that there is a dedicated online teacher for grades K through 4. So I'm going to just make sure that we are all on the same page about that. What we were saying before is that K4, that we would maybe have kids that would be beaming into the classroom. And now what we are saying is that we would have a dedicated online teacher for grades K through 4. Janie, go ahead.
And so when you say that, Jess, you're saying there will be a dedicated online teacher for like 2nd grade. There'll be a dedicated online teacher for 3rd grade. Okay, thanks.
Yep. So why one of the reasons we're doing that as well is that Edgenuity told us on Thursday that they are 2,000 kids over capacity for K-5 because they are working across the country, and I'm guessing they got a lot at the same time, and people made commitments that they couldn't keep. And so they are 2,000 kids over capacity. What's great is that we actually did not have any K-4 students that were committed to Edgenuity. So we just made sure that we clarified to people who were asking questions about K-5 Edgenuity that was no longer an option. A lot of parents said, that's great. I wanted the RWPS version of it because I like the idea of having a Red Wing Public Schools teacher and also my kids being able to see Red Wing Public Schools kids. So both options for 7 through 12, though, you must commit for a quarter. Both have really great curriculum. Edgenuity still has great curriculum for that 6 through 12. It's taught by a licensed teacher. Where you have the differences, that's been the parents have asked me that. Where are the differences between Edgenuity and Red Wing Public Schools? So it's really the people that are involved. And that's really the distinction that parents are making as well. Is it a Red Wing Public Schools teacher at Edgenuity? No. So that is one of the distinctions. And then also some of those students would be the students within the Red Wing Public School system, and having them be there and see their faces. Even if you're fully online for a year, you still would see those kids when they came back the next year. The mixed option for 7-12 would be that you could take 1 or 2 Edgenuity classes and 1 or 2 Red Wing Public Schools classes. You can take up to 4 per quarter. So that is a mix that you could do. And for parents who've been reaching out, I've been sending them, these are the classes that you could select. If you have that, if you would like that, please email me. I've been communicating with parents that need that. So one of the things people want to know is this the same as spring? No, is the very easy answer. We will include more rigor, greater consistency. The teachers will be teaming to make sure that we are all on the same page. We will meet the needs of families regarding technology, pending board approval. And then we will require more teacher interaction. That is a direct ask from many, many families, is that teachers are available during that class for kids to be able to ask questions and communicate with, just as they were in school. So what will be different about distance learning, that'll be the enhanced professional development, continuously improving on these skills, just as we always do as teachers. And curriculum resources will be provided. Teachers were begging for that in the spring because they knew we had these great resources for kids to have. We just couldn't do it safely. And so that is one of the things that we will shift. And then students and teachers can expect a structured schedule every single day. So that's to Jim's point. What is that structured schedule? I can bring up one of those samples, and I think that's also in that board packet as well. Lessons will be designated as most effective live or pre-recorded. That's going to be a personal choice for teachers. Teachers will be guided on effective online planning and collaboration. That'll be our PLC process. We're always keeping that educational plan at the center of what we're doing. And then we shifted our calendar to be able to meet those needs of professional development and added time for teachers. So this is some of the questions I think that Holly asked last week, or last meeting. So the teacher expectations, they are all responsible for student learning in their classroom. Student to teacher interactions will be required on a daily basis per course. Teachers will be available and logged in for students, keeping up a Google Classroom in every scenario so that we can transition seamlessly between scenarios and students know where to go. That's another, Amanda Peterson has created a Google site site for teachers that they can use as a parent and student portal. Those will be rolled out as well. The accountability for that, I think, was asked too, and great news. That's why we have our principals and our assistant principals to hold staff accountable to teacher expectations, and monitor through Google Classrooms and attendance. I think the last one that I had is that, what is that professional development that you keep talking about, Jess? So some of those options that we see here, Who Knew It is a program and a virtual program that we've paid for a while, that has really great curriculum. Project-based learning is a part of that. Co-teaching is a part of that because we have new co-teachers. We also will have Google Site training. Google Suite training with a virtual communication toolbox. I just added another virtual session talking about how do you make your Google Classroom student friendly, some tricks and tips for that. The My Math 101 for our co-teachers who might have not had that training, who did not have that My Math training last year. We will do a perspective taking and equity training in regards to how does our perspective affect what we do in the classroom, and then also in discussions with all of our students. Vertical alignment always is continuing. We consistently want to make sure that our vertical expectations are what we want from kids. So we'll have those teachers are always asking for. I wish I could talk to the person above and below me. So we'll make sure that we make space for that. Sacred PLC time, making sure we are not interrupting that we stay on DeFor's 4 questions that make a lot of sense, that say, what are we going to do if students don't learn what we thought that we had taught them, and how do we problem solve that together? Flight paths will continue with our partnership with Inside Out. Mick Wenland is going to step in as a 4th grade co-teacher. Through that, though, he is going to pilot with a program, an organization called Inside Out, which works with partnering Mayo Health Systems with our teachers to show what scientists do and what shows students in the classroom, what do scientists do and what do I look like, and can I be that person? So we'll talk more about Inside Out as we go, because I know that Mick will be wanting to share what he's been learning and really pull that flight paths down to our elementary level. And then how-to trainings are going to go on for staff and students, but also our staff is making sure that there are how-to trainings for our families. I think that was something that the board had asked for as well. So those are on our docket as well. And then I saw somebody pop up, but I didn't see who.
I think it was me, unless somebody else was before me.
I think it's you, Jamie.
This is going to be in the weeds question, Jess. I'm sorry, but have we had much discussion around like assessments and tests and MCAs and how that may look for the coming year?
Yeah, that is going to be what we follow. There's guidance on that in the state document. It just depends on the scenario that we are in. If we are in person and hybrid, we will still need to do MCA testing. I don't know if the state will shift that on us at all. But as far as the FastBridge goes, that is something that the teachers are discussing how to do that best in order to make sure that we are evaluating where students are.
What about if people choose online learning? How will that, I mean, will they have the option to maybe come in and take a FastBridge test, or I don't know, it's a detailed question, but
there are options always to meet the needs of families. There's options to do online testing for that the younger ages where it's a conversation. There's options. We're talking about what makes sense. And then for the MCA, they're saying that there are possibly options for them to take that at home as well.
Thank you.
I think I saw Holly.
Yes, thank you, Jess. My question is, do you have a calendar for the staff development?
Yep.
What are we looking at first off for teachers?
I can look at that staff development calendar. That's going to depend per building. We set up a framework at the district level to say these are our district days. But then what we do from there is let the building principals decide what makes sense for their building and meet the needs of their staff. So that's a little bit different per building. Yeah, I believe we're starting in the buildings because that will be the process and procedure that they'll need to really map out with their staff. And then about day 3, we come together as the district staff. But we'll be doing that virtually. They'll be in their buildings and we'll beam into their individual buildings. So we don't do that crossing.
Okay. What's the perspective taking with Wing Hui?
Yeah, he is somebody who came through the Red Wing Arts Association. He actually started talking with us because of his background, that he has done some presentations within the community. I can send out some information about him, but he does a lot with he's a photographer, and he does a lot with taking photos and asking us to use our perspective to see what we see. And he talks a lot about how there is not a right answer, but how did you come to that perspective, and where has your life experience gone, so that why is that you're like more introspective about how he comes at perspective. And he also, it's more of a journey of talking about where you're at and using photography to do that.
Very cool.
I can send some information about him to you.
Yeah. Have the teachers had a chance to listen to him?
No, this would be the first time. And then actually we're in conversations with him about whether or not he would also be willing to come into some 8th grade courses, so that we're kind of doing the same thing with our district staff that we are with our students, so we can have that good dialogue as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, hopefully one last question, Jess, and then I'll let others go. But I have gotten some questions from community members about our plans of possibly changing the dates for the cohorts kind of thing in the groups. Like, have we decided as a district, like, let's say group A is going to go Monday and Tuesdays in person, but if we are still in hybrid, do we presume that will stay that way second semester and second quarter as we go on? Or is that, again, just getting way too weedy? But I know people are trying to make some plans as much as they can. And so I just wanted to pose that.
Can you help me do that? Say that one again.
So let's say my children are in group A. So they're going to go to school Monday and Tuesday. Can I presume that will be the way it is second quarter and third quarter and fourth quarter of the year, or is it totally, it could change? I think group A might go Thursday and Friday then or something.
And during COVID times, as planning on sand, I never want to say for sure, but I would say that that's going to be kind of up to staffing, and then what we're looking at as far as which classes are offered when, and balancing class lists. So that's what I would say in regard to that. I know that doesn't necessarily give you a solid answer to stand on, but I think that's the best we have at the point.
Yeah, and that's okay, because I just wondered, I know, again, some other districts have put out like a whole calendar for the semester of even showing those weeks that we now have like a 4-day week, like, or, because some parents want to know specifically for their work schedules, what days their kids are going to be on. So I just was wondering if we thought about having a calendar as a district of like group A's are going to be, because we do have many weeks where there's only 2 days or 3 days or 4 days still.
Is the new calendar that way? Kirsten, can you help me with that?
Yeah, we at the last board meeting, we did change the school calendar, so we have more 5-day weeks.
Right.
And for the exact reason you just gave, Janie, is that we want both cohorts to be there each week at least 2 days. There are some exceptions like over MEA break and Thanksgiving, but it's sort of evened out during the year. So the assumption, like Jess said, is that right now we don't see a reason to change the cohort schedule throughout the year. It's always going to be Monday and Tuesday for kids with last names A through K, Tuesdays and Thursdays in school for the other kids. But also like Jess said, who knows what's going to happen? If the governor's going to change some expectations, or we decide to change the hybrid reason based on feedback from parents. But right now we're operating under the assumption that we'll have the same cohorts, on those days.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Is that the end of the presentation? Or is
Yep,
there more?
I just wanted to make sure that I answered the questions that were asked last time.
No, really great job, Jess. You sound sure of yourself, and the plan looks well laid out. What remains is how well it's executed.
Yeah.
But I'm impressed, and I appreciate all the work everybody in this district is doing and is going to have to do in the future. It's a big haul. It's been interesting times.
Thank you. I do want to make sure that I honor the hours and hours of planning that people, everyone in this district, the admin team, the teachers, the community members that have really brainstormed, and parents that have given so much feedback for us to really stand on to try to make a product that fits our community. And I don't want that feedback to stop. We're going to have to continuously improve and make sure that we're meeting the needs.
No, I echo. This is Heidi Jones.
This is really excellent.
Yeah, I just want to ditto Mike's remarks. Just great job. And I know everybody's working really hard, and I think we've come up with some good solutions here, but you're right. We're going to have to keep working at it. So thank you for this initial preview. Let's get going.
Thank you, Jess, and make sure to send along our thanks again to Amanda. But also, I know that there's just a whole group of people that have been working literally around the clock, and I know you've had some tough moments and some frustrations as well to try and fit all of these different pieces into the puzzle. So we recognize that, we honor that, we celebrate you and all of the work that you're doing and the admin team are doing. So thank you so much, and you've got our full support.
Thank you very much.
Anything else for Jess as she is here talking about our plan for the fall? And Jim, just that draft of the E12 learning plan, that daily schedule is in there that you were alluding to and asking about earlier. It really talks about the exact times of what a K through 4 learner might have during their day, their full outline and schedule. So that's a really good, it was very helpful for me to see that. It looks like a normal school day with normal things going on, and that's really nice to see. It makes me very hopeful and excited about the school year ahead. Lots to celebrate. So well done, Jess and team. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This is Jim. I just want to make sure people listening know there was something in place out there, and the fact that we have it doesn't mean that they have it. So I want to make sure that people know that there's something more than just what we're talking about. There's actually something in place. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. I know there's layers upon layers upon layers of every decision made, and lots of thought goes into, well, if we do this and this and this and this are going to happen. I get it. So I know, and amazed at all of the great work being done. So thank you. All right, moving on in our agenda, the next thing up is school board reports. Does anybody, operations, any updates from operations? No updates?
No.
Okay. Personnel?
Yep, I would say we don't have anything to do either.
Okay. Finance, you're meeting next week, I know. Any updates from finance? No? All right. Policy, I know we've got a lot of.
No.
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, so policy committee met earlier today. You can see the result of all of that. a couple of things. There are some Title IX changes in the law. They have to be implemented now, but actually the state of Minnesota is suing the federal government because we disagree with what that guidance offers, the new regulation. But that wasn't enough to slow down the implementation of this. So we'll be hearing more about that and maybe discussing that in the future. One other thing that I mentioned to the Legislative Policy Committee people is since I will be leaving this board and probably for the last decade or 11 years have been the one kind of following legislation and reporting on it, you won't have that anymore because the MSBA board job's going away. And we won't have a delegate assembly representative. So you're going to have to think about, most boards appoint someone to be a legislative liaison or somebody who kind of tracks that stuff to update you. And I would assume that that would be somebody sitting on the Legislative Policy Committee. So just an FYI to think about that for the future. A couple of notes from MSBA, if I can continue, just to keep it going. The summer seminar is at 6 p.m., the last session on Wednesday night this week. There will be a keynote speaker, and I believe Terry Morrow is the staff person who will be talking about legal cases, and that's something to keep an eye on too. So that's at 6, and again, if you can't make that, it's at 9 o'clock, videotaped the following morning on Thursday. And the fall advocacy tour, so that'll be virtual this year on September 8th. That is in conflict with our board meeting that night. So the catch-up session will be the following week, September 16th at 8:30 a.m. If you are able to join that call. It's basically the first conversation, preparing for what do you want to see ahead in the legislative session. Of course, this year will probably be especially fertile with COVID response, lack of funding, unplanned, unbudgeted expenses, that type of thing. And how can the state help us with policy or funding? And you're going to have to advocate pretty hard to retain the funding during these times, because the state's deficit right now is $4.7 billion. It's expected to grow. So it'll be even larger when the legislative session kicks off next year. So if you want to join that fall advocacy tour, the best option for Red Wing folks is September 16th at 8:30. And then I don't have any specifics right now, but MSBA has started offering, they call them Zoominars, on the third Thursday of the month. And I think the next one that's coming up will be the federal funding discussion, and they'll have a Minnesota Department of Education person talking to you about that. So that's all I have for that. I think we're going to not review handbooks ahead of time this year because everything is kind of building the plane as we're flying it. And so the committee, Legislative Policy Committee, was unable to schedule any more in, and the staff has a huge workload, of course. So I think you guys will be previewing those at our workshop meeting next week. So just FYI, be looking for that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Do we have any other school board reports to share, Arlen? You're on mute, Arlen.
Yes. One time you got me quiet. Thank you, Madam Chair. Two things here. One, I want to clarify something that came out here 2 weeks ago at our board meeting on our lengthy meeting. I was questioned about me wanting or in the process of making a motion as the chair of the meeting, and a board member felt that that was not appropriate and did not follow Robert's Rules of Order. I took the liberty of looking that up here because I didn't want to have a discussion at that meeting and do the research to verify things at that time. Another board member graciously made the motion I was looking for, and I thank them for that. But at any rate, I got, it's called the official Robert's Rules of Order website. which cites Robert's Rules of Orders. And it notes that if the president is the member of the voting body, he or she has exactly the same rights and privileges as all other members have, including the right to make motions to speak and debate and to vote on all questions. So in meetings of a small board where there are not more than a dozen board members present, and in meetings of a committee, the presiding officer may exercise these rights and privileges as fully as any other member. So that, to me, anybody else wants to research more, they're welcome to do it. But it does go on to say in larger boards that then the chair does not exercise that rights. So I just wanted to clarify that a little bit. Then the other thing is Goodhue County Education District had a special meeting last Thursday to put together more of the COVID plans and get okays on things. It was approved to be they're in school, full in school, I believe, for the lower grades and hybrid on the upper grades, but they are meeting every other week with their hybrid in the upper grades. But Wednesday will be a work day for the staff every Wednesday, regardless of which one you're on. So I'm quite sure the learning is only Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, and Thursday, Friday, with Wednesday being a work day with staff. Then we covered the Tower View will be following Red Wings hybrid schedule. And also the Ed District, we voted to approve the hiring of a building support specialist or for administrative support at the Ed District. And also started what we'll be working on later here with a mask policy for the education district. So that'll be my update on the Goodhue County Ed District. And that's all I have, unless there's questions.
Jamie, go ahead.
Thanks. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware with the Labor Management Committee that we are going through the health insurance bid process. So we do have a meeting in a couple weeks. And so I'm sure that's something we'll go over as we talk about negotiations for the year, but just want to make sure everybody was aware of that.
Thank you. And I think we do have some negotiations still out there, but as of right now, we've got some more immediate things that we need to get going, but I'm sure those will resume here shortly. So be watching for that as well. Any other school board reports? All right, seeing none, then Superintendent Anderson, if you could give us your administrative report, please.
Everything that we've been doing is been based, or almost everything, been based on our learning plan for this fall. So if you have any questions about that learning plan that that weren't asked of Jess, feel free to ask now. But I don't have anything in addition to report.
Go ahead.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, just not fast enough on the keyboard here. So Karsten, I see one of the notes I'd made was, how are we serving special education students? Is that a case by case? I mean, are they following generally a same schedule, or is that being evaluated individual by individual? Or, are they following the same schedule? Do you have any answers on that right now, or is that in process?
I just noticed that one or two board members, I think, were kicked out of the meeting. So if we could double check. 1, 2.
Well, Jim and Mike are not here. Let's
pause. If you don't mind waiting.
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. We just lost Jim, I guess.
Yep. Nope. Jim it looks like he had a commitment that he left for. So,
okay.
So he is no longer with us.
Okay.
All right. Let me write that down.
We can continue.
Yeah. So, to start with, the general assumption is that all kids will follow the same learning model. But really for kids who qualify for special education services, their learning is based on their IEP, or Section 504. So, that could look different depending on each particular child. So I can't really give a general statement, but I do know that the special ed staff is reaching out to every child who requires special education services to develop a distance learning plan. And so that's where those discussions take place.
Okay. I guess one of the concerns out there from the very beginning of distance learning was, are special education students getting the services that make it an effective education plan for them? And there was some discussion about, and again, I'm really unclear about this, and again, maybe that's all in development, about many of those folks need, a specific structure, works better for some of the kids. And I realize special ed is a spectrum. So, but some need a lot of structure, one-on-one services typically, in some cases. So I just, I don't want to push the envelope here, but I know there's some concern about, are we meeting the expectations that these kids need?
Well, I'm not sure if anyone would want schools across the country to be in the situation we're at, especially because it impacts some kids more than others. But we'll follow through with setting up those distance learning plans for each child.
Okay.
And implementing them fully. So we're going to do the best we can. But you're right. I mean, the resources are tough. The circumstances are tough. But I know that Sonia and the entire special ed team will do whatever they can.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. That was a great question. Sherry, do you have anything that you would want to add to that? Sherry Johnson?
Kirsten's exactly right. Every case manager right now is reaching out to each of the families to develop what the state is calling a contingency learning plan. So there will be plans in place for whether we're in-person, hybrid, or distance learning. And we'll have gone over those with the families, developed it together so everyone clearly understands how we're providing those services. The state also in its guidance asked that we prioritize students with special needs for the same reasons you already mentioned, that some of them, not all of them, need more structure, more time in school. And so they might vary from the plan that's in front of the board right now. But those meetings are happening over the next 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification.
Sorry to put you on the spot, Sherry, but I knew you were available for questions. So thank you for popping in. Anything else, Superintendent Anderson, on administrative reports?
I will say that we have a COVID response plan in place. It's still being developed, but we do implement it as needed. So we have people on a district team. On Friday, we'll be providing some teaching to the building coordinators so that we're all on the same page as the school year starts. So, it's going to be a challenge. And one thing that we have to remember is that if there are people who have been in close contact with someone who's tested positive, they go home. And so, it could be for 10 or 14 days at a time, students and employees. Even if there are people with symptoms of COVID and they come up with a negative test. I'm one of them. That just happened to me. I had several symptoms last week, went to the doctor, got my test. It was a negative result, but still I'm expected to quarantine, in my case, 10 days after the symptoms first occurred. And if I was in close contact with somebody else, then those people need to be in quarantine for up to 14 days. And so all of a sudden there's one case or one possible case, and there could be numerous people out for 10 to 14 days. This will make it extremely challenging this winter when the flu season hits, because of course so many of the symptoms are the same for the regular flu as for COVID. So, but we do have, I think, a good working plan that was developed by Joni Gorman, our district nurse, as well as Shonda Jorgensen, our safety consultant. And we have had to use it 3 times so far this year. But I think we've had really good contact tracing. We've taken all the steps necessary to make sure that the people who are at home are at home.
Well, and I think we're going to need a lot of help from parents and, students themselves, especially our high school students, to be able to, and staff, of course, to self-monitor and to just be upfront and honest about that, because that's the only way we're going to be able to get a good handle on it. So we're just going to have to ask our parents and our guardians to, do their best. Of course, none of us are medical experts, but if you've got some symptoms and you're concerned, then, we'd ask that you keep your child home.
Yep, no doubt about it. If people are sick or showing any symptoms, they just need to stay home. That's going to be one of the biggest steps we can take to make sure that we have a safe learning environment.
Kirsten, do we know if whether it's our district or the state in general is going to do any public service kind of focuses on that? Because as we look at this plan of, quarantining and having family members having to go home too, I just think it's very important that we bring that up all the time, that if you are sick, you need to stay home, and have a list of what that means and different things. So have we talked at all about that, or do we know if like the county or Department of Health is thinking of doing videos that we can use as a school district or anything, just to get that message out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I know that well, Jess just put her hand up, so she may. Why don't we let Jess go first, and then I'll give a supplementary answer.
One of the things that Goodhue County Health and Human Services has told us about that is that they are actually coming out with like a materials that we can utilize, and that was in one of our meetings that we had with the community. They have materials that we can use on mental health and then also on COVID response. So they're coming up with some things as well.
Yeah, the one thing that Goodhue County, has to face, just like everybody else, is that the guidance changes a lot from the federal level, the state level. And so, just today, I was given 2 more symptoms to add to the list. And so in the E12 learning plan that I'll be sending out probably tomorrow morning, I'll be sharing that information, but we all have to recognize that it might change. And we'll definitely provide whatever videos or brochures or reminders that we possibly can to parents and students and staff members.
Thank you. Anything else, anybody, for Superintendent Anderson and his update? All right, seeing nothing else, then we'll move along in our agenda to the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything that they need to pull from the consent agenda or discussion? Arlen?
Yes, I'd like to pull item 1, meeting minutes, and item 4, new hire reassignments.
Okay. Anything else?
This is Heidi. I'd like to pull number 5.
Okay. Anything else? Any other discussion about the consent agenda? So it looks like we just have number 2, which is claims and accounts, and number 3, which is Sandy Johnson's retirement in our consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve 2 and 3.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
Arlen, made by Janie, Arlen seconded. Any other discussion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Tower?
Aye.
Mr. Bryant is gone. Mr. Christensen is frozen on my screen. We're voting on the consent agenda.
Aye.
Is for,
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Dirks, I got it. Thanks, Mike.
Aye.
Ms. Fair,
I know. It
aye.
says aye.
And chair votes aye. So that's 6-0. Ms. Jones, I'm passing the consent agenda. All right. So we'll work with board minutes. We'll take it just one at a time. Heidi, did you have something?
I was number 5 that I wanted to, this was Arlen's poll.
Yeah,
Number
okay.
1.
Yeah, number 1, board minutes, Arlen.
All right, thank you. First, for the August 3rd meeting minutes. Item 4.11. It states, that was after the technical difficulties, it says the following recommendations are suggested to effectively implement reopening plans for 2020. They were actually, and then it goes on, everything there was not a recommendation, it was a motion. So I would like to strike that or put in some type of sentence that says, the following actions were taken for the 2020-2021 school year, or something to that effect. When I'm done, I think because of everything I'm asking, maybe we might want to let it sit until next meeting to clean it up, if you're in agreement with it. Secondly, number 1 is I move to terminate the purchase with Jim Patterson for the sale of a portion of Jefferson School. I think that's fine, but then we got a big description afterwards telling us keeping Jefferson School enables all the minutes should reflect, to me, would be the actual motion. The rest of the stuff is in our supporting documents. The same would go for item 3. After the motion, then there's a converting grade level centers to neighborhood significant. That's supporting information that was not an action of the board. I don't believe it needs to be in there. Same would be item 4. I don't think we need to go say the reason why in the motions. And item 5, it talks about the cost of the Chromebooks. I don't think that's necessary. Item 6, I don't know if I need to keep going on. I think we need to pull a bunch of this and just get an abbreviated statement of what the motions were. And so I'm not even gonna go any further on it. So that is my concern on that meeting. If you want to talk about that one first.
Arlen, as you suggested,
August 10th one too.
Yeah, we'll rework the August 3rd meeting minutes.
Okay, is I still all right to go here on August 10th then? On August 10th, business item 2.1 attached resolution. It refers to an attached resolution, which is exactly what was in the board packet, which was fine. But when I read this, it makes you think there should be an attached resolution to the minutes. So either we should be attaching the minute or the resolution to the minutes, or should we just make a statement that a resolution for implementing the plans of the start to school, whatever it was. I've got to find that set of minutes. There's so many things here. August 10th, here we go. All right. I'm getting dogged down here. I'm sorry, but what did I say? 2.1. All right. Yeah, 2.1. Motion made by Christian and second by Jones to approve the attached resolution adopting a basic learning model for the 2020-2021 school year and other quoted COVID-19 related matters. But there's no attached resolution in the minutes. So either we could change that to approve a resolution adopting a base learning model, and then you wouldn't have to attach a resolution to the minutes.
Right, and we just eliminate attached. That would solve the problem too.
That's all I'm looking for is changing that wording to a resolution. If people are okay with that one, that's the only thing I had on that one.
Did you have anything else, Arlen?
That's my only concerns on the minutes. I usually don't have many, and I'm sorry I had these
No,
today.
that was good. It was
number 4.
That was very helpful. Yes. And
Well, we
then,
we want to probably act on the minutes first, don't we, or not do them? You take each item.
You know, I suggest since one is a major rewrite, we can do that one over. I could take the single correction on August 10th. I'd be willing to just say we're going to subtract the word attached and make that correction. But we could conquer that now if you like.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, I'd say to just make it clean and easy. Let's just do one at a time.
Yep.
So make a motion to make those changes, Arlen. Do you want to make that motion?
All right, I move that we approve the August 10th minutes by changing the words attached resolution to just the word a resolution.
Second.
All right, made by Arlen, seconded by Holly. Any other discussion on that item? So this is just for the August 10th minutes.
Correct.
All right, Ms. Tower?
Aye.
Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Mr. Derrick?
Aye.
Ms. Fair?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. So that change passes 6-0. Do we want to make a motion for the August 3rd minutes?
Those are the ones that we'll bring back next time, but we still have the July 27th minutes.
Yes, and then can I get a motion for the July 27th minutes to approve those?
I move we approve the August 20, or not, July 27th meeting minutes.
July.
Second.
Yeah, July
Mike
27th.
will second.
I think Holly beat you to it, Mike. So made by Arlen, seconded by Holly. Any other discussion?
Actually, I think the second was by Janie.
Oh, I'm sorry, Janie.
No, that's okay. I just didn't want Holly to.
Like, what did I say? Sorry. Made by Arlen,
Responsible.
seconded by Janie. All right, Mr. Christensen, we'll start with you. We're passing the July 27th minute.
Aye.
Mr. Derricks.
Aye.
Ms. Fair.
Aye.
Ms. Jones.
Aye.
Ms. Tower.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. That's passes 6-0. Okay, so we got all those minutes passed. Number 4, new hires and reassignments.
Thank you. Now I lost all my notes, but it had to do with hiring the dean of students for Jefferson School, Kim Corey. I have no problem with it. I just have a question. Who will the dean of students at Jefferson School report to? Do we have a principal designated? Does it fall on the superintendent, or just clarify that, please?
You know, we have not formally approved that. In the meantime, though, I'm assuming that I'll be the official principal. And then after we get the school year started, you know, the principals and I will divvy up some assignments, and that'll be one of them.
Thank you for the clarification.
Any other discussion on item number 4 of new hires and reassignments? All right, so looking for motion to pass that one.
I move we approve item 4 of the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second. Heidi Jones.
Moved by Arlen, seconded by Heidi. Any other discussion? All right, we'll start with you, Mr. Derricks, for a roll call vote.
Aye.
Ms. Fair?
Aye.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. Tower,
No.
Mr. Christensen,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. That passes 6-1.
5-1. Sorry.
So 5-1, you're right. 5-1, my math. Yikes. And then number 5 with the resignations.
That was my discussion. And it's nothing particular to these folks. It's just, you know, I think as staff make decisions about, you know, what they need to do going forward, I'm really aware that this is not going to be smooth necessarily because we have a number of positions open. If we saw the email today, we still need teachers, we need other positions. So I'm really sensitive to the fact that, you know, as the superintendent described about the possible, you know, our COVID response and everybody around you's got to be out for different, you know, lengths of time and the positions that, you know, we normally expect. And so I just want to make the public aware that we're going to be doing our best, but we're going to, you know, have some, I think have some difficulties sometimes, you know, with the staff situation is just going to be very fluid for absolutely good reasons, for safety and health. And then as other folks are making decisions about what they need to do too, moving ahead. So that's all I wanted to just say. It's nothing, directly, like I said, tied to this. It was just a thought about, you know, what this is going to look like ahead for the district as a large employer in the area, and that we're going to be doing our best. So with that, I'll move to approve consent agenda number 5, the resignations.
Looking for a second.
Mike, second.
Moved by Heidi, seconded by Mike. Any other discussion on item number 5? All right, seeing none, we'll take another roll call vote. This time we will start with Ms. Fair.
Aye.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. Tower,
Aye.
Mr. Christensen,
Aye.
Mr. Derricks,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. So that passes 6-0. All right, and that is it for the consent agenda. Next item up for this evening is business item number 1, first reading of proposed policy revisions. Superintendent Anderson.
First, I'd like to suggest that we look at the next item, the review of policies, and move all of those policies to the first reading of revised policies. You know, today during the personnel or the policy committee, we had a discussion about whether or not minor changes should be included as just a review or as a first reading, second reading, and approval. And a majority of the committee members, I think, would like to see it, you know, as part of the revision process. So if we could just move those to, you know, this particular business item, I'd appreciate it. Really, these policies are being recommended almost entirely by the Minnesota School Board Association. One notable exception of that would be policy 1000. That was kind of a district setup policy that was slightly outdated, and so we're cleaning up some of the language that was in there. But the other items, you know, are based on recommendations from the School Board Association. What we'll do, the policy committee looked at them today. First reading will be tonight. We'll probably add these as a second reading next Monday, and then we can look for approval on September 8th. There's really no rush to get them done necessarily, but it's nice just to clean things up as we can. So I'll take any questions now or between now and the next meeting when we have our second reading.
Any questions? Okay. Anything else we need to tackle on those policies? Oh, Arlen?
Just clarification from Carson. I know it's a no action item on first reading, but because we're adding the others to a first reading, do we need a board action or is it understood that all these policies are first reading?
Yeah, I think for the minutes of this meeting will reflect, you know, the inclusion of those other policies in this list. So I think that should take care of it.
Okay, otherwise I could make a motion to add those other policies to the first reading or something.
Yeah, either way is fine with me.
Sounds to me like we can just add it in our minutes to the first reading and move along.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Next on the agenda is the notice of general election. Superintendent Anderson.
And really, Lisa Stigurda has been taking the lead on all election-related issues. It's nice that she has, I think, 19 years of experience doing it. And so the recommendation is just to approve the notice of general election. Really, it's more of an issue of transparency with the public, but we're looking for that motion tonight.
Any questions or discussion on that?
No, I'll make the
Mike will
motion.
make I'll second it.
Okay,
Your
I was
choice.
trying to read the official
Chair.
language here. I move to approve the general election notice as presented.
Made by
No,
Heidi,
I'll
seconded by
second
Mike.
it.
Any other discussion?
Got it.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. I think we start with Ms. Tower,
Aye.
Mr. Christensen,
Aye.
Mr. Derricks,
Aye.
Ms. Fair,
Aye.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
and chair votes aye, so that the general election notice as presented passed 6-0. And then truth in taxation.
Again, we're looking for approval of the truth and taxation hearing date in December. So you can see the recommended motion there.
My question was, the motion includes a physical presence, which we haven't approved yet, but I realize we have to make this decision by September sometime. So just wondering if the law will allow us some flexibility to, if we're not meeting in person or there's, you know, whatever. I'm hoping the state will give us flexibility.
Yeah, and certainly they'll give us some guidance here over the next few months before that meeting takes place.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All right, looking for a motion to conduct the school district's truth and taxation hearing on December 7th, 2020 at the Red Wing High School at 6 p.m.
Janie will make that motion.
So moved by Mike.
Or I'll second it, it's fine, whatever.
All right.
Move call so I can write it down.
May I ask a question here?
Yeah. Who did you give the motion to?
Janie.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to clarify something here by this motion, and I know we had to pick a location, but this will mean that we will be meeting at the Red Wing High School on that date and time, not the middle school or some other location. And I don't have a problem with it, it's just a clarification. Somewhere in the high schools they'll have to be.
Yes, and hopefully we will have a good plan to be able to carry that out in December on the 7th. All right, so motion on the table is made by Janie, seconded by Mike. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Christensen? Mr. Christensen? We're voting the roll call vote on truth and taxation hearing December 7th. All right, he says aye. Mr. Derricks?
Aye.
Ms. Fair?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Tower?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Passes 6-0. All right, now we can talk about our new policy regarding masks. Number 808.
Yeah, the School Board Association recommends passage of a face covering policy to explain requirements issued by the governor. And so I took the model policy that the School Board Association did and converted it to Red Wings template. And so it's word for word what the Minnesota School Board Association policy dictates. In addition to the general statement of the policy, we have some definitions of face coverings and face shields and masks. We have exceptions and alternatives, as well as implementation and enforcement of the policy. When the policy committee reviewed it just a few hours ago, I think we had more questions than answers because this is so new to so many people. I've had questions as well. And so we're looking for approval tonight, but we also recognize that we will need to ask for clarifications. We may make adjustments based on what the state says or based on what we want to change. But we thought we'd at least get the policy in place and then make adjustments as we go throughout the year.
So just a point of clarification, Superintendent Anderson, we can bring this policy back at any point?
Yeah, and that's true with any policy that we have. You know, we can always make adjustments in the policy. Usually we require first and second reading before approval of a policy. But there are times, such as, you know, during a global pandemic, when there are emergency situations where we can bring it up and just approve it the same night. So that's the recommendation for this policy tonight, but we can make a change at any time.
Thank you for clarifying.
Just a
Arlen,
comment, going over this, as Carson said, there are questions that come with this, but there are in one paragraph exceptions that can be granted in certain situations, but it's important to have something going forward coming into the school year if we're going to require masks. So I think there's flexibility in this to address the issues that may come at the beginning of the year. The superintendent or his designee can approve certain things. I don't remember the specific paragraph, but if needed, I know IEPs will enter into this, but I do think we will need revisions going into the year later on, but we have to have something in place. I'm not quite sure what else we need to do for approval of this policy. We are talking about possibly, I think that was on this, maybe having a quick meeting ahead of the workshop next week to get some other things in place, because they may need to be, but we got to have something in place. I think this will address what needs to be done at this time. It's not perfect, but it's good.
Any other discussion on this proposed policy 808?
I support, this is Heidi, Madam Chair. I support Arlen's statement. We really went through this quite thoroughly. It's not perfect, like he said, but I think 99% of it gets us where we need to be. And again, I think it's one of those things we want to articulate and be very clear for our staff and our students about what the expectations are. And I think we really can't afford to wait. So I'd like to see us move ahead with approval. Thanks.
Madam Chair, if I could just, sorry, I can put my name in if you want, but I agree with both of those statements. I just know that obviously everybody realizes that, and I'm sure you talked about this at the policy committee, is that I think some people are basing their decisions on what kind of education they're going to pick for their children on these kind of policies. So I just kind of throw that out there of that, you know, I have no problem approving this tonight either, but I know that the face shield thing is very important to some parents and being able to have that flexibility if their kids choose the learning or the in-person for K through 4. So that's the only thing I throw out there, that I do feel like people are making some decisions based on this policy. And if they have to decide by August 20th, we're kind of in a hard spot here. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, and if I could add, it's a challenging situation all the way around. We've had several staff members too who have approached us with concerns if there are multiple kids either not wearing masks or wearing face shields instead of masks. And so we have that dynamic as well to weigh. So I realize that there are a lot of people who are going to make decisions or requests based on this. But we're gonna have to look at things on a case-by-case basis and develop a pattern, and then possibly make some changes as we go.
Holly.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I don't want us to be too advantageous on this. There are going to be issues with mask day one, and it's going to be on the teacher's shoulders the minute that the issues come up on what should happen. So the policy is fine. It doesn't give the minute details, but I think in moving forward, we shouldn't be delusional in thinking that this is going to fix what the teachers are going to be facing minute one. And the little people, they're going to be uncomfortable. Do they want their mask off? Do they want it on? Can they stand by somebody and they take it off and somebody says he doesn't have his mask on, they call home? I mean, I'm fine with the policy as is, and as we go along, we have to revise it. So I'm in support of it, but I don't want us to be caught up in, well, we have a policy, so therefore everything's fine. Because it's not going to be fine. It's going to be scary. And I want us to be real about that.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. You know, something in writing is easy to talk about and approve, but when you have 12 to 15 kids in a classroom at a given time, and some of them are only 6 years old, you know, it's going to be a challenge for everyone, no doubt.
Any other discussion on the mask policy 808?
If not,
So I guess, I'm sorry, we can just again clarify kind of what our next steps are if this would get approved tonight. I mean, we are looking at maybe bringing it up Monday night with some more specifics, or Karsten, what's your plans?
Yeah, based on the conversation in the policy committee, I have several questions to ask the School Board Association. And for example, is this policy relevant to our van drivers? Should we allow supervising teachers to be the ones directing like music classes if they can or cannot wear masks, so that we don't have students making that decisions for themselves? You know, some other things we're going to ask about if some aspects of the policy are related to both staff and students. So we have those questions, and I can certainly bring those forward on Monday to discuss further.
Any other questions? Should we for a motion?
I will make the motion. This is Heidi, to approve policy 808 as presented.
I'll second it.
Made by Heidi, seconded by Arlen. Any other discussion? All right, Arlen, you get to start us off in the roll call vote.
Aye.
Ms. Fair?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Tower?
Aye.
Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. 6-0. Thank you. All
right.
All right. Future topics and upcoming events. upcoming meetings. I've got finance, right? You're meeting next week right before our workshop. Is that at 4 o'clock, 4:45?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, more thereabout.
And then we have our workshop. I will meet virtually next Monday at 6 p.m. And then the first day of school, September 9th, we'll have personnel meeting at 3:45, operations at 4:45, and the school board meeting at 6 p.m. In this new board book, Lisa and Karsten, if we could, we've always had a whole list of upcoming meetings like throughout the year because we had passed a whole calendar. So if we could find an attachment and continue to place it in the board book, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, that one is my fault, Pam.
It's okay.
Because I was quarantined and so I couldn't go into the office to actually run that report. But I'll be passing that on to Lisa so she can just run it herself on a regular basis.
Yeah, that would be great. I just think it'd be helpful to always have it attached to the agenda as an in there.
And the first day of school is September 8th for nearly all students. You know, it's going to depend on the last name for grades 5 through 12, but it is September 8th. Tuesday.
That's true. And his kindergarten starts on the 9th. Is that correct?
Yeah, half the kindergartners will go on the 9th and then half on the 10th.
Thank you. Thanks for that clarification. Any other meetings coming up or topics? All right, then I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved by Mike.
Holly's got it. Janie's got the second. Mike, you have to anticipate these things in like 10 seconds.
I'm gonna have to read your mind. Yep.
Made by Holly, seconded by Janie. Any other discussion? All right, roll call vote to adjourn. Janie?
Aye.
Heidi?
Aye.
Holly?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Arlen?
I'm almost the last one to get the word in. Aye.
And chair votes aye. So we are adjourned at 8:13 p.m. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you Monday, if not before. Be well.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.